As always, I want to recap, I want to rediscuss whatever the things we have discussed in the previous lecture. So basically in the previous lecture, we discussed about the remaining properties of the fluid, in which we started our conversation with few problems based on surface tension. Then we discussed about capillarity, what is capillarity, what is a capillarity rise, what is a capillarity fall, what is the basic fundamental reason behind a capillarity rise or capillarity fall. Basically it is cohesion and adhesion forces that we had discussed. Like in case of water, adhesive forces are more dominating as compared to cohesive forces, so there will be a capillarity rise in case of a water. But in case of a mercury, since the cohesive forces are dominating as compared to adhesive forces, so there will be a capillarity depression that we had discussed, and we derived an expression for height of rise or fall in a tube during a capillarity action. So that expression we had derived, that was 4 sigma cos theta by rho gd, and theta for water, I have told you that it will be nearly 0, approximately 0 theta for water, and theta for mercury it is 130 degree, that you may need to remember. And later on in the second part we discussed about I think the vapor pressure and cavitation. So after capillarity, we discussed about vapor pressure. What is vapor pressure? It is generally in very layman term. I can say it's the pressure exerted by the vapor on the free surface of the liquid. Okay, and whenever if in a hydraulic system, in a fluid machinery system, fluid system, if the vapor pressure is achieved or if the vapor pressure is reached, so vapor pressure you can say triggers out the, you can say, formation of bubble due to reaching of boiling point. Fine. So it will whenever the vapor pressure is reached, there will be formation of bubbles. Formation of bubbles or boiling of water will boiling of a particular liquid will start, and due to which there will another phenomena which may occur, that is called as cavitation, because these bubbles, see, when the hydraulic machineries are operating, they are operating at a higher velocities. So whenever these whenever these bubbles which are traveling with high velocity, they will explode on the surface of a, we can say, hydraulic machinery. They will cause erosion of the metal from the surface. These erosion of the metal these erosion from the of the metal from the surface leads to pitting, surface pitting or surface cavity. So whole phenomena is called as cavitation, which is not a desirable phenomena. Okay, that we discussed, and after that we discussed about different types of fluids. So there we discussed about different types of fluids, like ideal fluids, which are incompressible and inviscid, because there are minimum interaction between the fluid molecules in case of ideal fluids. Then we discussed about real fluids. All the other fluids are real fluids which are having viscosity, or there are any kind of a fluid losses, flow losses. So those are called as real fluids. And then we discussed about Newtonian fluids. So all such fluids which follow the Newton's law of viscosity, those are called as Newtonian fluids. Examples like water, oil, glycerins. So we discussed about them. Then we discussed about non-Newtonian fluids. Fine. So non-Newtonian fluids, in which the rate of shear stress will not be proportional to the rate of shear strain or velocity gradient. So such type of fluids are called as non-Newtonian fluids. I have told you one such example is a you can say ketchup. In this ketchup, you need to exert more stress initially so that the flow of ketchup can be achieved. And then we discussed about ideal plastic fluids, in which even before initiating any flow, you need to apply a larger stress. So such type of fluids are called as ideal plastic fluids. I have given you the example to be like a toothpaste could be a ideal plastic fluid. Okay. So that we had discussed in the last class. At the end of the last class, we discussed a few objective questions also based on the topics so far at that time we had covered. Now today we are going to discuss about pressure. Okay, so let's try to discuss about pressure. What are pressure, and what are the, you can say, minimum, what are the basic details about pressure that we will try to discuss. So pressure as a general term, how can we define pressure, or what is the proper definition of pressure? It is the normal force exerted by a fluid per unit area. Okay, so basically pressure is a force. What kind of force? Normal force. Okay, if the force is not normal, we cannot term it as pressure. Pressure is a normal force exerted by the fluid per unit area. So it will be Newton per meter square. Okay, per unit area. So that is called as pressure. Now see, whenever we talk about normal force in with respect to fluids, we term it as pressure. Okay, whenever we talk about normal force with respect to fluid, we term it as pressure. Okay, but when we talk about solids, in case of solids, Normal force per unit area is called as normal stress. Okay, you denote it by sigma, and you must have studied in salt of mechanics. So in if the body is solid and we are talking about normal force per unit area, that is called as normal stress. So pressure and normal stress are two things having the same unit, but pressure we always talk about in terms of fluid. Okay, normal force per unit area in terms of fluid, and normal stress is normal force per unit area in terms of solid. So this is a very, you can say, most common doubt also among students. So whenever what is you may be asking what will be the difference, what is the difference between pressure and a normal stress, so you can say this thing that whenever we talk about normal force per unit area in terms of fluid, so we term it as pressure, and if we talk about a normal force per unit area in terms of solids, so we define that as a normal stress. Okay. Now talking about the unit of pressure, you know the SI unit of pressure is Newton per meter square, which is also called as Pascal. But in many books or in many data systems, we also define pressure in terms of bars. Okay, so 1 bar is equals to 10 to the power 5 Pascal. Okay, this must be clear to you. Sometimes we also talk about kilopascal. So kilopascal is 10 to the power 3 Pascal. Megapascal is 10 to the power 6 Pascal. Okay, similarly 0.1 megapascal is 100 kilopascal. So such kind of conversion you should be able to do. Okay, so bar is 10 to the power 5 Pascal, megapascal, kilopascal. You should be able to do these things. And another kind of measurement of pressure is in terms of atmospheric pressure. So one atmospheric pressure is nearly 101,325 Pascal. So it's almost 1.01 bars. Okay, or in terms of kilopascal, it is almost 101.325 kilopascal. So you should understand these units of pressure. Okay. Now talking about the different types of pressure which we see. So if I want to discuss about different types of pressure, there are three different types of pressure, or three different terminologies you will hear in terms of pressure. The first terminology we say is a absolute pressure. Now what is the absolute pressure? You need to understand. Okay, basically absolute pressure, if you read this line, absolute pressure is the actual pressure at that particular instant and at that particular position. So actual pressure at that particular position and at that particular instant is called as absolute pressure. But absolute pressure is measured with reference to absolute zero or vacuum condition. In absolute zero, whenever the vacuum condition is there, so absolute pressure is measured with respect to vacuum condition or absolute zero pressure. You can read it from here, right? If I want to show you, like, from here, see, this bottom line, this datum is representing absolute zero pressure. So you can say absolute zero pressure is over here. And if I want to measure, and see here, there is one more reference line. This dotted line is you can say referencing atmospheric pressure. You know atmospheric pressure right now, I've told you it is 101.325 kilopascals, or approximately 1 bar. So this is atmospheric pressure, this is absolute zero pressure. So if you measure a pressure in any range, maybe at this point or at this point, fine. So if I need to measure the pressure at this position, let's say at this position, and if I measure that pressure with this reference line, there are two reference lines. So if I want to measure the pressure with absolute zero pressure, so this whole pressure is called as absolute pressure. You can see it over here. So at this point, if I'm measuring the pressure with zero absolute pressure, so this is called as absolute pressure. Okay, from here also, if you see, if this point is, if I want to measure pressure at this point, so what should be the reference line for absolute pressure? That will be absolute zero pressure. Fine. So if I measure the pressure at any point with respect to absolute zero pressure, so that is called as absolute pressure. Okay, I hope the point is clear. So absolute pressure is the pressure at any position which is measured with respect to absolute zero pressure. So such kinds of pressure are called as absolute pressure. Now second is called as gauge pressure. What is gauge pressure? Let's try to understand. So whenever we measure pressure at a position with reference to atmospheric pressure, okay, here the reference was absolute zero pressure, and in this case if we measure pressure at any point with reference to atmospheric pressure, so those are called as gauge pressure. Okay, again going to this point, if I need to measure the pressure at this point, and in this case if I choose atmospheric pressure as the reference line, let's say this is the reference line, atmospheric pressure. So if I measure with reference to atmospheric pressure, so this is called as gauge pressure. Okay, you can see it here. And of at all times, there is a convention also, we will gauge pressure should always be greater than atmospheric pressure. So if we need to measure the pressure above atmospheric pressure with respect to the atmospheric pressure, such pressures are called as gauge pressure. Okay, you can read it also here. um, See, yes, and why this type of pressure is called as gauge pressure? Why the terminology is gauge pressure? Because all the pressure measuring devices, like we have pressure measuring devices, like when you go for filling of air in your vehicle tires, fine, there you will see a pressure measuring devices, fine. So those pressure measuring devices are measuring pressure with respect to atmospheric pressure, not with respect to absolute zero pressure, fine. So therefore all the instruments which measure pressure, those instruments will tell you the output in terms of with reference to atmospheric pressure. Therefore those pressures are called as gauge pressure, and therefore this pressure is also termed as gauge pressure, fine. So always gauge pressure should be greater than atmospheric pressure. Okay, otherwise you cannot fill air in your tire. Okay, air will escape out of the tire if the pressure inside the tire is not leaving that point. Let's try to discuss gauge pressure. So gauge pressure should always see like atmosphere absolute pressure, the reference will be absolute zero pressure, and gauge pressure, the reference point will be atmospheric pressure. Okay, so these 2 points, very simple way to remember: absolute pressure with reference to absolute zero pressure, and gauge pressure with reference to atmospheric pressure. Now third is the vacuum pressure. As I have told you that gauge pressure should be, see, the measurement of pressure above atmospheric pressure. So such type of pressure is called as gauge pressure. Now if I need to measure pressure below atmospheric pressure, that like in this case this is atmospheric pressure, if I need to measure pressure over here which is below atmospheric pressure, and but I want to measure this pressure with reference to atmospheric pressure. Okay, if I measure if I measure the pressure at this point, but with reference to atmospheric pressure, it will be a vacuum pressure. If the same point pressure is measured with reference to absolute zero pressure, so it will be absolute pressure. So you should be clear about this whole concept. I hope it is clear. So whenever we measure pressure with reference to absolute vacuum or absolute zero pressure, those are called as absolute pressure. It could be above atmospheric or it could be below atmospheric. But if we measure pressure at a point which is above atmosphere with reference to atmospheric pressure, so those are called as gauge pressure. And if I measure the pressure below atmospheric pressure with reference to atmospheric pressure, those are called as vacuum pressure. From this relation also it can be clear, like gauge pressure will be absolute pressure minus atmospheric pressure. So absolute pressure minus atmospheric pressure will be gauge pressure. Similarly, vacuum pressure will be atmospheric pressure minus absolute pressure. That will be vacuum pressure. It's hardly any compulsion to remember these relations, but if you understand the basic you can say reference lines or referencing of the pressure, you can easily answer these questions. Next is a Pascal law. Now Pascal law is a very important law in you can say hydrostatic or fluid at rest applications, because what Pascal law says that if the fluid is at rest, okay, I can say the intensity of pressure will be equally distributed, or it should be equal in all the directions. For example, in this case, it has been shown, suppose this is a fluid particle, a random shaped fluid particle is there, and a triangular fluid particle. So on this fluid particle, suppose this fluid particle is among different fluid particles also. So all the fluid particles are exerting pressure force on this particle, fine, from different directions, let's say from x direction, y direction, and z direction, fine. So if the pressure is exerted on this fluid particle from different directions, what Pascal law suggests is the pressure from different directions should be same. Like in this x direction the pressure is px, in y direction pressure is py, in z direction pressure is pz. So what Pascal law says that px equal to py is equals to pz. So pressure is same from all the direction at a point in a fluid. This fluid particle could be a point, could be different size, arbitrary size. So on this fluid particle, pressure from different directions, the intensity of pressure from different directions is same. That is what Pascal law says. And this particular Pascal law has a number of applications in hydraulic machineries. You may have heard one term or one application like that, which is called as hydraulic lift, hydraulic ram, Fine. So these are some machineries which use Pascal law. See what happens in a hydraulic ram. We can lift very heavy objects with minimum amount of force, because we will multiply the pressure. We will multiply the force, keeping the pressure intensity common, same. We'll discuss how it could be done. Let's see. There is an example also I have shown here. Okay, like this is a case of a we can say hydraulic ram. So what happens in this case, suppose this is a station. On this station I want to lift a very heavy object. Okay, let's say capital W is a heavy object. So what I need to do is, and there is a very small plunger, a piston kind of arrangement. So if I press the plunger here, I can easily lift this whole heavy weight. Fine. So what is happening if I'm applying a normal force on this plunger? Fine. So whatever the pressure generated here, the same pressure is transmitted to their this position because of the Pascal law. Pascal law says that the intensity of pressure is same in all the directions. So if the pressure P is generated over here, same pressure will be applied over here also. But what difference you observe here is the cross section area of this plunger is low, is very less, and cross section area of this plunger is very high. So since the cross section area is greater, same amount of lower pressure can create a larger force. You know, force is equals to pressure is equals to force per unit area. If I'm keeping pressure as same, and if I'm increasing the area, fine. So with lesser amount of force you can lift a heavier amount of weight. So that's the, you can say, one of the application of Pascal law. Moving back to the Pascal law. Okay, so basically what you need to remember, or in terms of objective questions also, it may be asked that the intensity of pressure for in a static fluid is same in all the directions. You should understand this thing. So this law is always applicable for static fluid, not the fluid in motion. Okay. Next is a hydrostatic law. Now what is hydrostatic law? Again, an important law. Okay, first of all we'll see the statement for this hydrostatic law. What hydrostatic law states that okay, this is a statement of the hydrostatic law. It states that the rate of increase of pressure, the rate of change of pressure in vertical direction. Okay, so rate of increase or rate of change of pressure in vertical direction is equal to weight density. Weight density we have discussed in first lecture. Weight density is second lecture, sorry. The weight density is specific weight, you know, specific weight per unit volume. Okay, so rate of increase of pressure in vertical direction, mind it, in vertical direction is equal to weight density of the fluid. Okay, that is hydrostatic law. And to prove this, there is a little derivation also. We'll see the derivation. Okay, now see what we are doing. We are keeping a system here, a fluid system is there. Fine. So what is happening here? We are assuming a fluid element. Let's say this ABCD is a fluid element, fine, which is z distance away vertically from the free surface. So from free surface it is at a z distance. Face AB is at a z distance from the free surface. Okay, and the overall height of this fluid element is considered to be del z. Height of the fluid element to be considered as del z. Okay, now what we are assumption we are taking, ki cross section area of the element. Now you can see only the 2D view, right? But if you consider as it as a cuboid, fine, so there will be a thickness also, like height there could be a thickness also. So if you consider face AB has some cross section area, fine. So it is assuming that cross section area of the element is del A. Okay, height of the fluid element is del Z. Now pressure on face AB, on this face AB the pressure is small p, intensity of pressure is small b, and this AB surface is z distance away from the free surface. Vertically it is z distance away from the free surface. Now what you need to understand here is, see, pressure force at surface AB, the force due to this pressure P is P into delta A. You know, pressure is force per unit area, so force will be pressure into area. And so force on AB will be P into delta A, P into delta A, which is perpendicular normal force. Okay, normal force means pressure, obviously. And so which is acting normal to AB, downwards. This force is acting downwards to AB. Fine. And similarly for this face CD, the bottom face CD, fine. See, we are moving down from AB to CD, we are moving down. So if you are moving down, obviously you know the weight of the water available will be increased. So pressure at the bottom will be higher as compared to the pressure at the top. Fine. So pressure at this point should be great. Fine. So pressure on the face CD will be P plus, you can say, differential increase in the pressure. Okay, very small increase in the pressure, P plus del P. Okay, so P plus del P, you can also write this with the help of Taylor's equation. So just I'm not going into that detail. Fine. So you can just assume that there will be a differential rise in the pressure. So P plus del P by del Z into dZ. Fine. So that will be the pressure on the face CD. But now this pressure is acting upwards. Why this pressure is acting upwards? Because I'm assuming that this fluid element is stable at this condition. It is not moving down or up. It is stable. That means the forces are balanced on this fluid element. The forces are balanced. Downward force is balanced by upward force. So if P is the pressure force acting at AB downwards, so P plus del P into del A is the pressure force which should be acting upward to maintain the stability. Okay, and what is happening? See, this fluid element must be having some weight also. So weight is also acting downwards. Okay, so weight of this fluid element will be what? The volume of the fluid element into density into G. We have done it so in the previous class also. Like for to calculate the weight of this fluid element, first we calculate its volume, and if you multiply volume with density, we can get mass, and if you multiply mass with G, you can get weight. So you can see density into volume, it is written over here also, density into volume into G, that is the weight of the fluid element. So density is rho, volume of the fluid element, you know the cross section area is del A and height is Z, del Z. So volume will be del A cross section area into height. So del A into del Z is the volume. So this is the weight of the fluid element. Now this weight of the fluid element should also act downward. Okay, so if you balance these three forces, what outcome we have? Let's say so in this case, downward forces are taken to be positive. Okay, so P plus del A positive, weight of the fluid element to be positive. Okay, and upward force was only the pressure force on side CD, and that is taken to be negative. So if you solve it, if you open the bracket, if you solve it, you will see these terms will get cancelled out. So you will only get these terms. Okay, now if you rearrange the terms, you will get such kind of condition. Del A into del Z is common in both sides, so they can be cancelled. So it can be clearly written that del P by del Z is equals to rho G. Okay, so that means the change of pressure with respect to vertical distance, del Z, Z is the vertical distance, right? So change of pressure with respect to change in the vertical direction is equals to rho into G. Now what was rho into G? If you remember the second lecture, we have derived this, we have seen the relation between weight density and mass density. So weight density was rho into G. Fine. So rho into G is weight density. So I can say that change of pressure with respect to change in vertical direction is equals to weight density. That is what hydrostatic law also states. Okay, statement of hydrostatic law is rate of increase of pressure in vertical direction. Rate of increase of pressure in vertical direction is equals to weight density or specific weight. So here also we are getting it mathematically. So rate of increase of pressure with respect to you can say vertical direction is a weight density of the fluid. That is what hydrostatic law. And further from this hydrostatic law, we can find the intensity of pressure at any point in the liquid. Fine. Within a liquid, if you want to find the pressure, if we need to find the pressure, that pressure will be like that pressure will be can be found using this expression. So I can say if you bring that z to that point, so it will become dp is equals to rho g dz. Okay, dp is equals to rho g dz, and if you integrate this, okay, if you integrate this, so you will get, now you can see that we have integrated with the limit of 0 to p. That means this is a absolute pressure. Okay, so absolute pressure at this point will be rho gz. So this p which you are getting is the absolute pressure. Okay, we have taken the limit of integration from 0 to p. Okay, so 0, lower limit is 0, and you know, if whenever we are measuring the pressure with reference to 0 pressure, so that is called as absolute pressure. So I can say absolute pressure at any point p at a distance of z will be rho gz. So according to this figure here, rho gz will be the pressure on face b. Getting it or not? So this is what we need to discuss here. And if you want to measure z from here, so z is equals to p by rho g. This is also called as pressure head. Okay, in coming classes, in coming concepts, we are going to learn about different types of energy heads. So Z is also called as P by rho g, that is called as pressure head. So unit of Z will be meter. Okay, so just keep in mind this point only, P is equals to rho g Z, which is used for calculating the absolute pressure at any point in a static liquid. Okay, so two things to understand. Pascal law states that for a static fluid, pressure is same in all the directions. Second, hydrostatic law, the rate of increase of pressure in a vertical direction is equal to weight density. And if you need to calculate absolute pressure in a liquid at a certain distance from the free surface vertically, so that can be calculated as rho g z or rho g h in some books. You may find it rho g h or rho g z. Okay. So this is hydrostatic law. Let us try to solve a few problems based on hydrostatic law and Pascal laws. Okay, let's see this first problem. It states that hydraulic press has a ram of 30 centimeter. So this is a ram. The larger station is called as ram. Smaller station is called as plunger. Fine. So a ram of 30 centimeter diameter and plunger of 4.5 centimeter diameter. Find the weight lifted by the press when the force applied at the plunger is 500 Newton. Fine. So in this question, you want to see hydraulic press. It's a press. The press is used for lifting the heavier objects with less effort, like in case of pulleys or levers. So pulleys and levers provide mechanical advantage. So I can say these hydraulic presses are providing you, in non-officially I can say that hydraulic presses provides you can say hydraulic advantage, like in that case that was a mechanical advantage. With lesser force you can lift heavier objects. So in this case hydraulic press, with lesser force you can lift heavier objects. Fine. So that is what you can say advantage we are getting here. Fine. So it want you to calculate that if I apply a 500 Newton force in the plunger, how much weight I can lift on this ram. Fine. So you know the force on this plunger is 500 Newton. Okay, let's see first. We'll make the list of given parameters. So first thing given is the diameter of the ram. So capital C, ram is a bigger quantity, so we have here it is denoted as capital quantity. So diameter of the ram is capital D, that is 30 centimeter, and SI unit is 0.3 meter. Diameter of plunger small d, 4.5 centimeter, that will be 0.045 meter. Force on the plunger is 500 Newton, SI unit already. Now it is asking what should be the value of this W. Okay, so here what I need to calculate, as you know that Pascal law states that pressure is same at all the conditions. See, this fluid is not flowing. Fine. So pressure should be same, intensity of pressure should be same here and here. Fine. So first we somehow will try to calculate pressure. And so pressure, to calculate pressure, you know that there is a very basic definition of pressure, that is pressure is equals to force per unit area. Okay, force per unit area is pressure. Here in plunger we have force. We already have force. I just need to calculate area, and you know force, pressure is what? Normal force. So I need to calculate normal area. Fine. So normal area will be the cross section area of this plunger. So here if the force is acting downwards, I want to calculate the normal area of this force. Normal area will be the cross section area of the plunger. You know the diameter of the plunger is 4.5 centimeters. So from here area of the plunger is calculated 0.00159 meter square. Fine. So pressure pressure intensity near the plunger will be force on the plunger to the area of the plunger. That will be the pressure of the pressure created due to the force on the plunger. Now whatever the pressure created here, same pressure will be delivered here also. So pressure on the ram will be same. Okay, now it's written also here that due to Pascal law, intensity of pressure will be equally transmitted in all the direction. So from plunger to ram, pressure intensity will be same. So here I can say pressure will be 500 by this whatever the value here, and if you calculate this will be the value. Now this pressure, whatever the pressure exerted over here on the ram, that will be equal to force. Now force on this ram is the weight of the object, so that will be the force into cross section area of the ram divided by cross section area of the ram. Okay, so weight on the ram divided by the area of the ram, that will be the pressure. But this pressure we have already calculated on the plunger, right? So we will equate this. So you know area of the ram, diameter of the ram is given. So from here area of the ram is calculated. So W weight by area of the ram will be equal to the pressure intensity. So pressure intensity already calculated at this point. So if you equate them, you will get weight to be nearly 22,222 Newton. Okay. Now try to compare. the force on the plunger was 500 Newton, and force which we can lift is 22,000 Newton, more than 22,000 Newton. That means how many times we have multiplied our effort? Okay, it's more than 40 times. So more than 40 times. So by just applying a very less load of 500 Newton, you can lift a 22,000 Newton weight. So that is the advantage I was talking about. Okay, so I hope you got the answer. Now this is a similar kind of question regarding the hydraulic press and the ram. Again, I want you to follow the same process, make the list of all the given parameters, and then apply the proper equations to solve the answer. Okay. Now in this case, weight is given, weight on the ram is given. There's quite a kind of a reverse question. Weight on the ram is given and force on the plunger you need to calculate. Okay, so I hope you will try to do, and you will ask me for the doubts if you have. Next question is over here, that is, this question is based on hydrostatic law. Let's see what has been asked here. Now it is asking us to calculate pressure. It is asking us to calculate pressure on a column. Let's say there will be a column, and there will be a column like all right. So what it is asking here, that suppose this is a column here, fine. So on this column, a 0.3 unit should be given. Let's say 0.3 meter. So on this pressure, 0.3 meter of some liquid is filled on this column. Okay, it's asking what should be the pressure over here due to this 0.3 meter column liquid filled in this column. Fine. So now if the liquid is water, what will be the pressure? If the liquid is an oil with a specific gravity of 0.8, what should be the pressure over here? And if the liquid is mercury with a specific gravity of 13.6, what should be the pressure at this bottom point? Okay? That is what asking. So you know that from hydrostatic law, if I need to calculate pressure at any point, so that will be pressure is rho gz, that means density into gravity into the distance, vertical distance. So vertical distance from this point, it's clear the vertical distance from this point is 0.3, fine. So whatever the density of this fluid into acceleration due to gravity into z, so that will be the pressure at this point. Very simple, fine. Using that same hydrostatic law, what we will see is we will calculate for water. Pressure at this point will be rho g z. Rho for water, 1000, g is 9.8, and z is 0.3 given in the question. So pressure at this point, if we have water, will be this much. Okay, 2943 pascals. Okay. Now instead of water, if this is a oil of specific gravity 0.8, so for this relation, density, we need density. So a specific gravity, we can convert density. So 8 into the density of water, so 0.8 into density of water, that will be the density of the oil. So 800 is the density of oil. You just substitute the value again in hydrostatic law, rho gz. So we are getting this much pressure. Now this is slightly lesser pressure, okay, 2354 as compared to water, because the density of the oil is less, right? So this is the pressure due to oil. Now if I talk about mercury, so mercury specific gravity is given 13.6 into density of water, so this will be the density of mercury. Just substitute the value here, you will see the pressure is almost 40,025 newtons. So a very high pressure because the density of mercury is way higher, and so pressure here will be increased if the mercury is there, right? So this is a very simple question based on hydrostatic law. Just you need to remember, if you need to calculate pressure at any point, so you just need to measure the height from the free surface. Okay, so just substitute rho gz. Okay, let's see one more question. Now an open tank contains water up to a depth of 2 meters, and above water there is a oil of specific gravity 0.9. for a depth of 1 meter. Find the pressure intensity at two different locations. It is asking at between the interface of the two liquids and at the bottom of the tank. So let's say this is a tank. So from bottom up to 2 meter there is water, and above water up to 1 meter there is an oil of specific gravity 0.9. So we'll see you can say the height of water. The height of water from bottom, it is considered to be Z1, 2 meter, and height of oil from water surface, it is Z2. Okay, this is Z2, 1 meter. Specific gravity of oil is 0.9. Density of water is 1000. So density of oil you can easily calculate 0.9 into density of water, that is 900. Okay. Now we need to calculate pressure at two points, at point A and at the bottom of the tank, point B. So if I need to calculate pressure at point A, what should be the pressure at point A? So if I need to calculate pressure at this point, I will see the height of free surface above this point A. So above this point A, what is the height of free surface? That is 1 meter. That is what? Z2. Okay, according to the notation taken here, Z2. So height of the water from the free surface is 1 meter. Fine. So we'll apply the hydrostatic law, rho g z. So z in this case will be 1. Fine. And rho in this case will be the density of oil, not the density of water. Okay, because the fluid which is available above this is oil. Okay, so density of oil into g into height of the oil. Fine. So this is the pressure at point A. Now if I want to calculate pressure at point B, so what I will see the height of the fluid from the surface. Okay, so height of water from the bottom of the tank is 2. Okay, so rho gz, so rho gz for water plus rho gz for oil. So both of these things we will do, rho gz for water plus rho gz for oil, because the free surface is over here, right? So but the density is not same. There are two different you can say fluids, so we need to add, because the density is different for both the fluids, so we need to apply it differently, okay, separately. So rho gz of oil plus rho gz of water have been you can say done here, and the pressure is calculated at point B. Okay, I hope the problem is clear. So these are few questions based on so we discussed in this lecture, we discussed about different type of pressures. What is pressure? Absolute pressure, vacuum pressure, gauge pressure, that we discussed. Then we saw Pascal law, its application, its advantage. Then we saw about hydrostatic law, that it states that rate of increase of pressure in the vertical direction is equal to weight density. And then from there we saw that how to calculate pressure in a static fluid. So we need to use the expression rho g z. Okay, z is the vertical distance from the free surface, rho is the density of the liquid. Okay, so that we have seen, and then we solved a couple of problems based on these things. So I hope you learned well. Thank you.